I slept with Marcus last night. She said it while buttering toast. Not crying, not apologizing, just stating a fact, like she was telling me it might rain later. 7 years of marriage, 2 cars in the driveway, a mortgage we were 3 years from paying off, and she delivered the nuclear bomb between bites of sourdough. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything, I didn't even put down my coffee. Instead, I walked to my office, unlocked the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet, and returned with a manila folder. 47 pages, color-coded tabs, 18 months of documentation. I slid it across the breakfast table. "What's this?" she asked, finally looking up. "That," I said, "is your bill, $93,412. Consider it the cost of loving you." Her toast fell from her hand. And that right there was the beginning of the end, not of my marriage that had died long before this morning. No, this was the end of her believing she could walk away clean. This is a story about betrayal, but more importantly, it's about what happens when someone stops being a victim and starts keeping receipts. My name isn't important. Call me Daniel, that's close enough. What matters is understanding how I got here, sitting across from a woman I once would have died for, handing her an invoice for our entire relationship. We met in 2015 at a friend's engagement party. She was the maid of honor. I was nobody, just a +1 who got ditched 20 minutes after arrival. Lee found me by the bar, nursing a whiskey and pretending I was having a good time. "You look exactly how I feel," she said. That line, I remember thinking it was perfect, not a pickup line, not small talk, just honest, and God, I was hungry for honesty back then. She had just ended a 3-year relationship with someone named Marcus. Toxic, she called him, controlling. He monitored her texts, questioned her friendships, showed up unannounced at her work, the kind of man who made love feel like surveillance. I made myself the opposite, gave her space, trusted completely, never once checked her phone or questioned a late night. I told myself this was healthy, mature, evolved. But here is the first truth this story taught me: sometimes the opposite of a monster is just a different kind of prey. Our relationship moved fast because it felt easy, moved in together after 8 months, engaged at 14 months, married by month 22, everyone said we were perfect. Her mother cried at the wedding. My father pulled me aside and said, "You did good, son, she's a keeper." Keeper. The irony of that word haunts me now. The first 3 years were genuinely happy. I want to be clear about that. This isn't a story where I paint her as a villain from frame one. We traveled. We laughed. We built the kind of mundane, beautiful life most people dream about: Sunday farmers markets, inside jokes, finishing each other's sentences. But something shifted around year 4. Lee had always struggled with her career, degree in graphic design but working reception jobs. I encouraged her to go back to school, get certified in UX design, something with better earning potential. She resisted at first, said she felt guilty that I'd be supporting us financially while she studied. "That's what partners do," I told her. "I invest in you, you invest in us." So I paid for her courses, $12,000, bought her a new laptop, another $2,000, covered every bill, every grocery run, every vacation while she focused on building skills. She got certified in 2020, got a job within 2 months, good salary. I was proud, genuinely proud, thought this was the start of us building together. But something had changed in her during those 2 years of financial dependence, or maybe something had changed in how she saw me. I didn't realize it then, but I was no longer her partner. I was her safety net. And safety nets don't get passion, they get taken for granted. The distance started small, less physical affection, more nights where she fell asleep early, business trips that seemed to multiply. She joined a gym and suddenly had energy for everything except us. I made excuses: work stress, hormones. The pandemic had disrupted everyone's intimacy. I read articles about rekindling and planned date nights that felt like job interviews, tried talking about it. She said I was being paranoid. "You always need to dissect everything," she said once. "Can't you just let us be?" So I stopped dissecting, stopped asking, became the quiet, supportive husband she seemed to want. And quietly I started watching. Not her, never her directly. I was too scared of what I might find. Instead, I watched myself, my bank accounts, my contributions, I started keeping a spreadsheet just for peace of mind, I told myself, just to understand our finances better. Every dinner I paid for, logged. Every bill in my name, documented. Every trip, every gift, every unexpected expense that somehow always landed on my credit card, recorded with date and receipt. 18 months of data. I didn't know what I was preparing for, maybe nothing. Maybe I was just coping with a marriage that felt increasingly one-sided by giving myself evidence that I wasn't imagining things. But on the morning she buttered that toast and detonated my life, I realized I had built something else entirely. I had built a case. The affair didn't start that night. I know that now. The forensic accountant I'd later hire, yes, I hired a forensic accountant, traced it back at least 8 months, maybe longer. There were dinners on her corporate card that didn't match her client list. Hotel charges she claimed were work retreats but happened on weekends when no conferences existed. But let me tell you about that morning first, because the way she told me, that's what broke something final inside me. I slept with Marcus last night. No preface, no we need to talk, just detonation between bites. I asked her to repeat it, not because I hadn't heard, I needed time, my brain was buffering. Marcus, she said again, my ex, we ran into each other at Kelly's birthday thing last month, started talking again, last night it happened. She sounded annoyed, like I was making her explain something obvious. And you're telling me why? I asked. Because I'm not a liar, Daniel, I want to be honest with you. Honest? The word tasted like battery acid in my mouth. So what happens now? I asked. She sighed, actually sighed, like I was asking the wrong question. I don't know, I need to figure out what I want. I'm not saying our marriage is over, but I need space to think. Maybe we should see a therapist, maybe. Stop, I said. I didn't raise my voice, didn't need to. Something in my tone made her freeze mid-sentence. You want space to decide if you still want me after sleeping with the man you called toxic for 3 years, while continuing to live in the house I pay for, drive the car I financed, and benefit from the career I funded. That's not fair, she started. Fair, I repeated, let's talk about fair. That's when I got the folder. 47 pages. The first section was titled Direct Financial Support, Education and Career Development, Tuition, Books, Certification Fees, Laptop, Software Subscriptions, total $18,600. The second section, Primary Household Expenses during Spousal Unemployment, Underemployment, Rent, then mortgage payments, utilities, groceries, insurance, all in my name, all from my accounts. 2 years of primary support, $31,000. Section 3, Vehicle and Transportation, the lease on her car, insurance, maintenance, gas for 3 years, $14,000. Section 4, Discretionary Lifestyle Expenses, vacations she picked, restaurants she chose, clothes, spa days, subscription boxes, all charged to my cards, $22,000 over 4 years. Section 5, Gifts and Special Occasions, birthdays, anniversaries, just because moments, $8,000. Grand total, $93,412. I had printed everything, bank statements highlighted, credit card bills annotated, receipts organized by category. This is insane, she whispered, flipping through the pages. Is it? You wanted honesty, here's mine. You spent 4 years letting me invest in our future while you apparently decided that future didn't include me. You can't just bill me for being married. I'm not billing you for marriage, I'm documenting my investment in someone who committed fraud, emotional fraud. You let me fund your entire life while secretly reconnecting with your ex. Every course I paid for, every bill I covered, I did believing we were building something. You knew we weren't. Her face cycled through emotions, shock, anger, then something I didn't expect, calculation. This wouldn't hold up in court, she said. And there it was, the mask slipping completely. Not guilt, not remorse, legal strategy. Maybe not all of it, I admitted, but you'd be surprised what a good lawyer can argue is marital waste, especially when combined with evidence of infidelity. Evidence. I hadn't mentioned evidence. The spreadsheet was financial, not investigative, but her reaction told me everything. The way her face paled, the way her eyes darted toward her phone. She had more to hide, much more. Get out, I said. Excuse me. This is my house, the mortgage is in my name, I paid the down payment. You can take what you brought into this marriage and leave by tonight. You can't just. I already spoke with a lawyer last week. That was the truth she never saw coming. I hadn't waited for this conversation to get legal advice. Some part of me had known this moment was coming for months, so I prepared. Last week, she repeated, stunned. I've been watching our finances for 18 months, Lee. You think I didn't notice the hotel charges, the cash withdrawals, the credit card she shares with our joint account suddenly maxing out before statements arrived? I hadn't confronted her because I wanted more information, and now I had the only confession I needed. She left that night, went to her sister's place. I changed the locks, which my lawyer had advised was legally permissible since she wasn't on the deed and had no history of establishing separate residency. The next 6 weeks were warfare. She hired a lawyer immediately, filed for divorce citing irreconcilable differences, demanded alimony given that I was the higher earner, claimed my documentation was financial abuse, an attempt to control and shame her. The audacity took my breath away. But here's what she didn't know, I had more than spreadsheets. 3 months before the toast incident, I had started monitoring our shared accounts more closely. I found a secondary credit card in her name, one I never knew existed, being paid from our joint savings. Small transfers, 50 here, 100 there, easy to miss if you weren't looking. I hired a forensic accountant to trace the spending. Those business trips, hotels in the city where Marcus lived, those client dinners, restaurants he frequented according to his public social media check-ins. I also found text messages she forgot to delete. Not on her phone, I never touched her phone, but on our shared tablet that synced with her iCloud. Months of conversation, rekindling, planning, complaining about me. He's so boring now, just works and comes home, no spark, nothing like you. When are you going to leave him? Soon, need to get a few more things sorted first. A few more things, meaning, extract maximum resources before departure. My lawyer submitted everything in discovery. The opposing counsel tried to claim the evidence was obtained improperly. Judge disagreed, the tablet was marital property, the accounts were joint, and she had no reasonable expectation of privacy in shared devices. The affair became central to the case. Not for morality, courts don't much care who sleeps with whom anymore, but for the financial argument. Marital waste is the legal concept. If one spouse uses marital assets to benefit an extramarital partner, the other spouse can seek compensation. Those hotel rooms, marital waste. The dinners with Marcus she charged to our joint account, marital waste. The cash she withdrew and couldn't account for, presumed marital waste. Lee's lawyer tried to negotiate. Offered to walk away with no alimony claim if I dropped the financial recovery demands. I said no. This isn't about the money, I told my lawyer. It's about the record. I want documentation that she did this. I want her to sign something acknowledging what happened. Because here's what most people don't understand about being cheated on. The worst part isn't the betrayal. It's the gaslighting that preceded it. All those months of your being paranoid, and why can't you just trust me and stop making problems where none exist? She made me doubt my own perception, made me feel crazy for noticing what was right in front of me. I needed her signature on something that said, you weren't crazy, this happened, she did this. The final settlement took 4 months to reach. I kept the house, she had no claim, wasn't on the deed, hadn't contributed to down payment or significant mortgage payments. She kept her car and personal belongings. I retained full ownership of all investment accounts, retirement funds, and the modest inheritance my grandmother had left me. And the $90,000 bill. She couldn't pay it, of course not, but the settlement required her to acknowledge that during the marriage she had been the primary beneficiary of financial support. And that her undisclosed relationship constituted a breach of marital trust that caused economic harm. That acknowledgement in writing, notarized, filed with the court, was worth more to me than any check. But the story doesn't end there, because revenge, even righteous revenge, has a cost. I won the divorce. By any objective measure I came out ahead, kept the house, protected my assets, got the acknowledgement I craved. So why did I spend the next 6 months unable to sleep? The human brain isn't built for sustained combat. The hypervigilance required to document, investigate, and litigate, it doesn't just switch off when the battle ends. For 18 months I had trained my nervous system to look for threats, and now the threats were gone but the vigilance remained. I jumped at text message sounds, checked my bank accounts compulsively, sometimes 10 times a day, had nightmares about finding more betrayals, more lies, more hidden accounts. Woke up at 3 in the morning replaying conversations, looking for red flags I might have missed. My therapist called it post-infidelity PTSD. Yes, that's a real diagnosis. Betrayal trauma mirrors many symptoms of post-traumatic stress: intrusive thoughts, emotional dysregulation, trust annihilation, and identity disruption. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about being cheated on: you don't just lose your partner, you lose your ability to trust yourself. I picked her, I loved her, I believed her for years. What does that say about my judgment, my instincts? If I was wrong about the person I knew most intimately, what else am I wrong about? That spiral consumed me for months. I also discovered something uncomfortable about my revenge. The spreadsheet, the documentation, the legal victory. I had told myself it was about justice, about accountability, about refusing to be a victim. But sitting alone in my house, the one I fought so hard to keep, I realized another truth. I had also wanted to hurt her, wanted to see her face when she realized I wasn't the naive husband she'd dismissed, wanted power over someone who had made me feel powerless. That desire wasn't noble, it was human, and acknowledging it didn't make me a monster, it made me honest about my own capacity for darkness. The psychological aftermath extended beyond me. Lee's life unraveled in ways I didn't anticipate. Word spread, as it always does in suburban social circles. Mutual friends distanced themselves. Her family, who had initially supported her, grew cold after reading the settlement documents. The affair with Marcus, it didn't last. According to friends who still spoke to both of us, he ended things 2 months after the divorce, unwilling to deal with her drama. I felt nothing when I heard that, not satisfaction, not vindication, just emptiness. And there were moments, fleeting, unwanted, when I felt something worse. Guilt, not for protecting myself, not for the documentation, but for the way I had delivered it. Here's your bill. That line, cold, calculated, designed to wound. Was that the man I wanted to be? Someone who meets cruelty with cruelty, someone whose first instinct is to weaponize information? I still don't have a clean answer. What I know is this: healing isn't linear. Some days I feel strong, rebuilt, wiser. Other days I find myself wondering if any of it was real. The good years, the laughter, the moments I treasured, were they all performance, or was there genuine love that somehow curdled? I'll never know, and that uncertainty might be the cruelest part. My therapist says meaning comes from what we do next, not what was done to us. I'm trying to believe that, trying to build a life that isn't defined by betrayal, either hers or my response to it. I started volunteering, financial literacy workshops at a community center, helping people, often women in abusive situations, understand their own economic power, how to track accounts, how to prepare for worst-case scenarios, how to protect themselves. The spreadsheet skills I developed in paranoia became something useful, something healing. Irony again, this story is full of it. Dating has been complicated. I've tried a few dinners, a few connections that seemed promising, but every time I start to relax, the hypervigilance kicks in. I notice myself analyzing word choices, wondering about inconsistencies, looking for red flags that probably aren't there. I don't want to be that person, the suspicious one, the one who makes partners prove themselves constantly. That's not love, that's surveillance. So I pull back, focus on healing first, trust that someday the walls I built will have doors. Lee reached out once, about a year after the divorce, an email, long, rambling, half apology and half justification. She said she was sorry for how things ended, said she had been lost during the marriage, struggling with identity issues she couldn't articulate, said Marcus had been a connection to her old self, someone who knew her before she became Daniel's wife. She didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't expect a response. I read the email 3 times, then deleted it. Not out of anger, out of acceptance. Her narrative was hers, her rationalizations were hers, they didn't require my validation or my rebuttal. The story of why she did what she did would never satisfy me, because the only story that matters now is the one I write going forward. Here is what I learned from loving someone who betrayed me, and from becoming someone who burned it all down in response. Trust is not foolishness. I trusted Lee because that's what love asks of us. The failure wasn't my openness, it was her deception. I refused to carry shame for believing in my own marriage. Preparation is not paranoia. Keeping records, understanding your finances, knowing where you stand legally, these are not signs of a damaged relationship. They are signs of an adult who takes responsibility for their own security. I wish I had started sooner, but I'm grateful I started at all. Revenge is complicated. The spreadsheet gave me power in a powerless moment. It allowed me to reclaim a narrative that was being written against me, but it also revealed something uncomfortable. I enjoyed her shock. I took pleasure in her pain. That part of me exists. I don't have to celebrate it, but I can't pretend it away. Healing is not forgetting. I still think about her, not with longing that died long ago, but with a strange curiosity. Who was she really? Did I ever know? And would it matter if I did? Some questions aren't meant to be answered. They're meant to be outgrown. And finally, you are not obligated to be destroyed by someone else's choices. I was handed betrayal. I chose to respond with clarity. She expected tears, I gave her numbers. She expected begging, I gave her boundaries. She expected to keep the power she'd accumulated through deception. I took it back, line by line, receipt by receipt. Was it healthy? Probably not entirely. Was it satisfying? More than I want to admit. Was it necessary? For me, in that moment, yes, to reclaim my story, to refuse the victim narrative, to prove to myself more than anyone that I had been watching, that I wasn't blind, that her duplicity hadn't erased my capacity to think, plan, and protect myself. $93,412. That was the cost of loving her, documented in black and white. But here's the number that matters more: 1. One life, mine, still standing, still building, still open cautiously, carefully to the possibility that what comes next might be better than what came before. So let me ask you, whoever is watching this in the small hours, perhaps because you are living your own version of this nightmare. Would you keep the receipts? Would you burn it all down? Or would you simply walk away owing nothing, owed nothing, free? I chose the fire, I chose the ledger. I chose to make her sign something acknowledging what she did. And some days I wonder if the cleanest revenge wouldn't have been no revenge at all. Just silence, just disappearing, just building a life so good she becomes a footnote. Maybe that's the sequel. But this story, this one needed the spreadsheet. Because some debts aren't about money. They're about truth. And I made her pay every cent.